So what I did was I changed it. Oops. Oh, shit. Just do this. Now it's live.
Is it? Okay.
Okay, so we're live, but they're... Oh. Everybody's getting behind the scenes.
The screen thing was cool last time. Let's show your screen.
Yeah, the advantage of the PC that can actually handle it.
Yay!
Okay, Facebook, great live stream, go live. Okay. Now. Three, two, 1, 0. Welcome to Live at the Hive, everybody. It's episode 22.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Dan Nadelko. This is
Courtney Castle.
And April McCall.
There we go. All right. I'm just going to flip over to the Honeypot Facebook page to do a bit of management. There we go. And Courtney's going to kick us off.
For sure, yeah. So welcome to our Friday the 13th episode today.
So spooky.
Very spooky. Lots of spooky things planned. Yeah, but we've had a very busy week at the Hive, a really great week at the Hive. We've been launching many campaigns, lots of social media contests. We've also been out and about in the Waterloo Region community sharing our know-how about social media marketing. We were at Resurrection High School earlier talking to some of the business students there. And then we were at Conestoga this morning. So gave a little chat to our alma mater, our advertising program, great program there. And Deb, who asked me in, knows me so well. She gave me a little thank you gift, a little flask. So thank you. I will put that to good use
Deb.
this weekend.
Of course you will.
But yeah, hey to anyone from the class who's tuning in for today. And yeah, we're just gonna get the ball rolling. So basically, what's been working for us this week? One thing that April and I have been doing a lot over the past couple weeks is a lot of quarterly planning, basically, is what we like to call it. So when we look at our marketing strategy, and we're looking at many different channels, whether it's social media, email, blogging, advertising, etc., we're kind of looking at how do all of these things tie together? How do we make sure that they're not just random campaigns that are not working together towards the same goals? So basically what we do, the senior team in particular at Honeypot, is we do quarterly strategic planning. So we don't, wait week by week and wonder what are we doing this week. We plan things out 3 months in advance. And we love to use a tool for that called Tom's Planner. It's a pretty simple drag and drop kind of a tool. It's for Gantt chart building. If you've ever built a Gantt chart before, it's basically just a lovely kind of a visual representation of your campaigns, when they're going to run, and basically also just to make sure that all of these channels are working together.
So I just threw up Tom's Planner on the screen now, so you'll be able to have a look at that. And basically what you can see here is really what it leads to is it's a lot less about the tool. I mean, the tool is great because Gantt charts typically are the bane of a lot of people's existence in the world, especially when you're using, April, you had mentioned you were using
Excel?
Yes, which is a nightmare to manage and change and update. So we've been using Tom's Planner here for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And what it does is it really makes it easy and quick to build out, modify, update your Gantt chart, and then share it with all of the key stakeholders involved.
For sure. And if your tool isn't helping you be more efficient, then it's not a good tool. So that's one of the main reasons we love Tom's Planner. Super simple. It's not make work. It allows us to focus on the execution. For sure. And as you can see kind of in the example, we have things blocked out. You have past campaigns as well, so that you can go through and see also what else you've been doing up to this point, so you can see kind of how your plan is evolving. And this just helps you keep on track for things like long-term goals as well. I think it's easy to get caught up in kind of what are we doing this week or this month, but you have to keep in mind, especially clients when they come to us, they're asking for certain key performance indicators, like increasing organic search traffic, for example, or search conversions from your organic conversions on your site. And we're performance driven. So we take all of the channels. That's the term omni-channel. That apply to a specific client or a project. So not every brand, e-commerce store, B2B applies to every single channel out there. But when we're crafting these campaigns, as you can see, if I flip back over here onto the screen, so you can see here, this is a sanitized version of a campaign that we ran a few years ago that was actually very successful. But you can see here, we've got a ton of different channels, quite a few on this one. This one's a pretty extensive one. But we're also looking at program dates. This is for live events and contesting. PR, all of our email marketing, the exact dates when things are going to launch, who the targets were. And then as you go down, you start to see that we have various types of geo-targeted locations and then channels, media sizes for display networks. You keep going down. We have partners that we were working with on this one. And then Facebook ads boosted, Twitter, Instagram, and you can see the example of when we were launching these to the social audience. So when you get into this level of complexity, things get very, very hairy. For sure. And as an agency, like when we're looking at that full channel for multiple people, that's the kind of depth that we need to be aware of, and the kind of the forethought and really the proactivity. And that's really something that we really try to focus on and emphasize at Honeypot. We have to have ideas and campaigns going out to meet our goals ahead of time. We don't look at the end of the month and say, we didn't reach our target. You can't, you just can't do that in marketing. It's entirely performance based. So you have to make sure that you have a roadmap, a plan in place, and through your experience and the tools that you have at your hands, you can kind of know what the expected outcome of that campaign will be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And planning is key. Not getting so planned that you're inflexible, that you're agile, but that you have the bird's eye view of what's happening. And in fact, I've seen over the years campaigns where there might be multiple teams working on campaigns. You may have a retention campaign in addition to a new customer acquisition campaign. And unless everybody's on the same page, what will end up happening is you'll have this kind of Venn diagram of users, and someone may get hit very hard with a lot of different messaging if not planned out properly.
For sure.
Right? And that's what that Gantt chart, hold on, let me just flip back. I'm still doing dual role producer and host. Here we go. So you can see here that if I were to scroll up, especially in the email marketing side, which can be the most annoying, is that if you had a kind of block in here that was extremely heavy, you would be able to see that and kind of work things around either by segmentation or by date and time of send and how you present that and deliver it.
For sure. And being a full service agency, that's, kind of a specific thing for us. We don't focus on just websites or just video or just social. We do a little bit of everything. So if you are a all-in-one marketer, like a person who is just, you are the marketing team for your company, or if you are a small or medium business owner and you're kind of looking at the full picture as well, the Gantt chart is perfect for that. If you don't have time to look at the tiny little granular detail of all the elements of the campaign, you can look at one view. It's what our clients love about it. They don't, they're trusting our expertise. They don't have time to kind of review every detail with us. They just want to see that there's a plan in place and that it's going to meet the goals. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's really great for that.
Yep.
For sure.
So in terms of when you're planning omni-channel, I think one of the other things too, and we'll get into a new tool that was just released, was Google released Reach Planner for YouTube, is planning and estimating the amount of traffic that you're going to get, the visibility, how you're going to craft those campaigns, and then really what those estimates turn into in terms of anticipated cost per click, anticipated total budget, number of impressions, click-through rate, and then ultimately your conversion rate to your conversion goal, whether it's a lead generation or a sale or event registration.
Yeah, and interestingly, that's actually a question that was asked a lot this morning when I was talking to the college students, was how do you actually estimate? How do you when you're in media buying, you make an estimate of what the results will be. Right. And we actually, just like you would with traditional, when you're budgeting out and estimating for whether it's a King poster, which is a bus ad, or a billboard. It's the same thing in digital. AdWords, Facebook, all these tools. We also have our own template in Excel that we use where we do the math and work backwards. So we say, if, for this campaign to be ROI positive, we need to have 200 conversions from it. We then work backwards and just a piece in the numbers from there. So if we need that many conversions, we need a certain conversion rate. We need a certain number of click-throughs to the page to convert, and then we need a certain number of impressions too at the end of it. So you can see it's actually mathematically calculated. It's not just, to a certain extent, yes, it is our own expertise in the industry as well. We know what kind of results to expect on these platforms, but they really do actually create estimates for you, and they're great for planning.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So the other thing that you can do is if you see some of the examples down here, you'll see that there's display advertising, and that's actually, I'm just going to kind of bolt on another comment about, see a lot of display, search, and then display and remarketing campaigns. In particular, we did talk about this last week with creating a multi-phase display campaign that has a hook for the user to visit your site, drop them into a remarketing group, and then take them out of the first campaign and move them into the second campaign with a new message. And that is one way to use, a lot of people will say, well, display advertising doesn't work. That's really not true.
In some circumstances, it can be more expensive than search, but I think it depends on the tactic you're using.
That's right. That's right. And that's kind of the point I was going for here, was to actually say, the GDN, the Google Display Network, which is what displays all your AdWords display ads, is run through AdSense, and that's the partner portal that allows sites to place them. So you'll see the star.com, CNN is on there, millions and millions and millions of sites. And that's really the problem with the reach of it, is that there's a lot of sites. There are a lot of sites. It's just like there are a lot of search terms, right? So one of the key things in terms of crafting an omni-channel campaign is really thinking about how you're using each one of those channels. So for example, display can be very effective when done properly, but there's such a huge number of websites out there. Then you have your CNNs, which are extremely expensive for placement. And then you have, my favorite shop for junk sites. They're all using AdSense. And so one of the key problems with display advertising is when you're crafting a campaign, and if you've never done this before, it's really, really important to remember that placement and exclusions are extremely important for success when creating display campaigns.
And you can exclude whether you're in AdWords or Facebook. It gives you the exclusion option. I think a lot of people tend to think on what to include. It's obviously the first nature is to think, who do I want to target? But when you're talking about efficiency of spend, and especially in advertising, every last dollar counts. Like you want to make the most out of that budget, especially if you're talking to like an entrepreneur who might be spending like a couple $100s. Right. So you really want to make sure that you're getting the proper result, because these advertising platforms, again, are more than willing to take your money for your poor campaigns. They want you to get good results. That's why they have all their educational material there. They want the platform to be of value, but at the end of the day, they are a business as well. So one of the key things that we do, and we can drop this into the comments after, is WordStream in conjunction with another partner, and I can't remember who, actually looked at a very large data set of AdWords display ad campaigns that had been running, and showing what they were trying to do is identify in such a large network who were the bad actors. Where are you spending the most without getting any conversions? And you might even be getting click-throughs, but you're not getting conversions. And keep in mind that although Google tries their hardest to prevent fraudulent clicks and bots, that a lot of unscrupulous advertisers out there, and there are a lot of them out there on these sites, are working as hard as they can to try to generate those clicks, and that costs you money. So what they did was they generated a list of 500 plus sites that should always be excluded from every single AdWords display campaign. And it's extremely useful because they are actually high volume sites. People don't often realize it. And if you're an advertiser and you're crafting this and you're a marketer, go in to your campaign and check to see your results tab to see which sites are in fact generating the clicks. And if you see something like myfavoritefuzzy.bunnies.com and you go look at that site and you see that that site is basically a spam site, you're probably not going to be getting good conversions from that. For sure, yeah, and that's exactly the kind of example Dan's giving, is that especially if you're paying CPM, like cost per thousand, typically, we tend to lean to the side of CPC, cost per click, but some people you can run a CPM ad in which you're running for impressions. So if you're paying directly for those impressions and you're getting 100,000 impressions from some crappy site that doesn't give you a single click through, then it doesn't matter how many impressions you got. Like that's not really, if you're really like a Fortune 500 company, it's a brand building campaign. Like even at that point, do you want your brand associated with that website?
Yeah,
like, it's really just not good.
It's not qualified traffic most likely, and you can certainly exclude those. Nicole Nadelko says hello. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Our number one fan.
That's how we pad the total views, just to get your family and loved ones to watch.
It's Nicole and Hannah battling it out for number one fan.
Boy. There we go. Not mine. That's okay. And then the second thing that you can do in your display campaigns as you're generating these, and we're just using the one example of AdWords display, but you can imagine that if you're running 3 or 4 campaigns on Facebook, 3 or 4 search campaigns on Bing and AdWords, and then display campaigns, and now you're starting to see it starts to add up very, very quickly. So in each one of those, in order to defend your budget and not blow it out, is then take the exclusions force those sites never to be used. And then your placements will allow, you got to do some research, both in the ad planner, but you can use Google, Ahrefs, SEMrush.
Talked about BuzzSumo is also good for publishers. If you're looking for a site that perhaps to enter a conversation, perhaps there's a trending topic that's related to your product or your service, and there's a site that's specifically devoted to that. Like why not tap into that audience as well? So
that's right. And you want to create those placements intelligently. So for example, if I'm trying to, we'll use the example we used the other week of buy Dan's house, right? So let's say I'm trying to sell my house and I decide that I'm going to run a Google display ad, and I'm looking for Toronto buyers because I know that they've got a higher price point in mind, so that's good, right? And what I might do is I might say I would be really great to advertise on the star.com, but that's got a high cost per click, right? But what I can do is I can say, well, put it on the star.com and let's put it on pages that only have real estate, buy your home, and that'll include content and related sections on the site that you can do, so that you're not showing up in world political news, right? You're showing up in only the real estate, and then you've targeted it. And you can actually make your visibility on the star.com practical and highly converting. And you go through that process for each one of the portions of your campaign.
And this is a very known typical strategy. It's content adjacent marketing. It's practiced in traditional as well. Like if you were to purchase a magazine ad, you pay per the placement, or as Dan used, a newspaper. If you're doing print or online, you pay different prices depending on the section that you're in, and also the ad format itself. Exactly. Yeah, color. You pay a lot extra for color.
You pay a lot more for color,
whatever reason. Cool. Sure.
Yep. So that's a bit on omni-channel. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys wanted to add into this conversation here.
Yeah, no, I think that's just especially for all marketers it's important. I think that one thing I just like to underline is that this really helps to weave your traditional and digital channels together as well, to make sure that if they're kind of acting separately from one another, they should really be supporting each other. And this is a great way to do it as well, because we also include things like sales team activities. Are they attending conferences, things like that? Are they boothing places? And then we can support them from the digital side as well.
Yeah. As an example, where the Gantt chart that again I've thrown up here just to view it, it becomes really important is when let's just add a layer into this. If this was a quarterly plan for a client, then they've got 3 trade shows happening in a 2-month period, so they've got teams all over the place. Is that when we put it in the Gantt chart, we're able to see that activity and then support digital activities. So one of the things we do at trade shows is work with the sales team and the promotional team. And then what we'll do is we'll run a very targeted campaign around the conference center to support the visibility of that team in the conference center via YouTube, Facebook, Google search, map ads, all the things, because those people are always obviously on their mobile devices. And you can go a long way to really being effective with digital crossing over into a live event trade show. And again, what this layout does is it lets you see all of that at a bird's eye glance, and you can present it to the client or your internal team. It doesn't really matter. And everybody gets a really good, solid understanding of what's happening and what's coming up.
Yeah, and that's a great point. From the teamwork perspective, when you work with 20 plus people, and some people are designers, some are social media marketers, some are writers, it's all across the spectrum. It's good for the holistic view of your team as well, to see the left hand can see what the right hand is doing, so that everyone's working together. So
it's good on the client side and the team side.
For sure, because sometimes the team could be made up of, sometimes we work alongside the in-house team as well. So yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's just skip right along.
For sure.
What's up next?
What's new this week? Yeah, there's been lots of things happening. We've discussed Facebook a lot. We're gonna skirt kind of right over that. I think everyone's heard a lot about that.
Everyone's seen a lot of Mark Zuckerberg this
week.
week.
If you do want some of the recaps on that, we have recapped it in some of our previous episodes. I believe episode 19 and 20. We talk about some of the marketing rollout and impact. But yeah, we want to focus on some of the more, there's been some really important rollouts in other sections. For example, Dan mentioned earlier is that AdWords has now added a YouTube reach planner.
Oops, wrong tab. There we go.
It happens, lots of tabs. But yeah, we're really excited about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be kind of cool to see what they planned.
So really what you could never do before, you could only estimate based on the total views of that particular channel, but the reach planner is definitely because there's pre-roll, mid-roll, all the different video formats that are in place, to see what frequency is left available on a channel, to see what so you can really plan where you're going to place it. It's a really big step for YouTube in terms of its progression towards a television style, right? To be able to plan in a similar way. It's obviously different, but until YouTube would be able to, with their reach, be able to match that level of planning that traditional television has, it was always going to be an issue. So it's kind of the next evolutionary step. Yeah.
For sure. And just so for any of you who are more beginners, and you're not sure reach, if we're using this terminology, reach is the number of people that is seen by your ad. So not impressions, it's different. Impressions is the number of total times it's been viewed. So that could be one person viewing your ad 5 times. Reach is the unique number. So it is an important number to us.
Yep.
We are also looking at click-through rate and conversions, of course, but definitely need those reach numbers to get up there. And using these estimates really allow for us to just be more accurate with our campaigns and know what we can anticipate.
So I think the one of the other things too to keep in mind here that's interesting with Reach Planner is that there's a bit of AI going on there that's going to allow you to estimate the highest level of effectiveness between TrueView in-stream and then the bumpers on the ads. So this is where big data is coming in and artificial intelligence to try to make better recommendations when you're driving a large budget or even a smaller budget to say this is what we anticipate will give you the most number of views. And I think you can be skeptical about those, but I think in terms of from Google's motivations on the Reach Planner is they really do want to try to give you the best estimates because there's so many channels and there's so many combinations that it's almost mind-boggling to try to plan it out yourself. Using real-time data that could change.
When I talk about social media, I like to say YouTube is a beast unto itself. It's kind of its own, they have a lot more going on under the hood there than people think. It's not just posting videos. There's a whole monetization element. It is a search engine just like Google. So it is very intricate. And if you've ever looked at like the YouTube playbook or the back end of it, you'd be pretty surprised at like even how in-depth the analytics of it are. So
Oh yeah. And there's also changes coming through. YouTube is being transitioned a lot like AdWords is over to the new interfaces. So a lot of stuff is kind of working its way in, and they're adding new features only into the beta, not into the older version. So you're going to see lots of changes there. And YouTube, done properly, is extremely powerful. Just one tip on if you're doing some YouTube advertising, the #1 placement for effectiveness that we've seen over the past 3 or 4 years is the search results screen on YouTube. And if you're anything like I am, you start YouTube with a search. Right?
For sure.
It usually starts with how to change a kitchen sink or whatever you're looking for. And you can add placements for search terms a lot like you can with a search campaign, but in the search results, that's really where you want to be. A lot of times you see people just go with recommended. There's quite a few options in terms of YouTube, but if you're gonna launch something, give it a shot. If you've never done it, it's definitely worth trying, and start with the search results placement. And,
for sure.
And be careful because you can add caps to your campaigns.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and just one other thing, just on the YouTube side, as the video producer at Honeypot, when you are creating the video asset that you're going to run on it, consider if you're using those kind of pre-roll ad formats, that there is look into the details of like your charging format. If you're doing like you only get charged when someone watches the video to a certain time frame, like 25 seconds. If someone presses the skip ad before that, you're not charged. So consider the length of your video. I would not make one longer than like 30 seconds is kind of a sweet spot, because unless someone watches the full video, you're not actually being charged for it. There's some particulars and things like that and ways you can kind of make sure you're getting the most out of it, especially if you're investing in creating the video asset.
Yep.
Sure.
Lots of stuff in terms of video strategy. One of the things too to keep in mind is really make that impact in that first 5 seconds. Do not do a stinger that takes 10 seconds. That is going to lose you money. You've got to punch it right away.
A stinger being an intro, like your animated logo or something like that. Nothing. You literally have 5 seconds, if not 3 seconds, to get your message across. And if the first 10 seconds is your animated logo, it's like, you just wasted that. So.
And quite often what you see is, and large brands are infamous for this, is they basically take a television ad and throw it on YouTube. Not a great idea.
No.
So, exactly.
The rule of content creation is always optimize per channel. Do not take the same piece of content and throw it up on all channels. It just doesn't look good from an audience perspective, and you're not going to get the best performance.
It needs to be tailored slightly.
For sure, even if it's just in the way that you distribute it and the hashtags you use and the language, right?
So one of the things that I've done in the past is when actual television commercials were being produced, we would take the B roll, stuff that hit the cutting room floor, which is typically 80 to 90% in any video. You'll shoot a lot more than you end up with. But you'll always have there's really good, interesting things that you could refactor that would gain someone's attention, and take that and then repurpose it. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. You're reusing content that you've already invested in. And again, it doesn't matter if you've got an iPhone and you're shooting video, or you've got a full production studio and you're shooting a professional television commercial. The same rule applies, is that you could refactor all sorts of different content to gain people's attention. Right.
For sure. And that's just getting the most out of your video as well. You're, like Dan said, B-roll could make great social sharing. So if your video is notorious for having the highest conversion rate on social media, so that asset as well, consider repurposing it, especially when you're doing video, just because of the added production value of it. So definitely look at how many ways can I use this asset, not just the one video that you produced from it.
Totally. Okay, moving right along. This one's actually pretty interesting.
It's got Dan's attention.
Yes, this is good. Well, I'm always interested to see the never-ending battle between Snap and Facebook.
Same.
And I think Evan is probably pretty happy these days, because they're not fans of each other. Nope. Zuckerberg and Evan Spiegel. Yeah, it's a little bit of a feud.
It's a thing.
Yep. But it's going to be interesting to see with Snap testing commerce for publishers.
So basically this is just the new release from Snapchat, is that they've added an e-commerce element. So it was there initially. A lot of the times what social platforms and ad platforms will do is they'll roll out a new feature to choice companies, like very large companies, to kind of get them to test it and build up kind of a case study, things like that, work out the bugs. And then they roll it out to kind of the small to medium businesses. And this in particular is the ability to click through on a snap, similar to you would on a story, where you have the ability to click through if it's an ad, or if someone has 10K plus followers, you can now click through so that it will lead you to a product page, for example, and things like that. And I think this is kind of, we've mentioned it on the show before, that late last year, Snapchat released kind of an update to their back-end ad platform so that you could have more transparency to what digital marketers are more accustomed to, like being able to actually see click-throughs and conversions. I think initially Snapchat was kind of disregarded, I don't know if you guys would agree, as kind of more of a surprise and delight event marketing tool, not really like an e-commerce tool. So I think this is kind of what you'll see in 2018 is Snapchat's battle to prove itself, really, as an ad platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find it interesting because if you look at something other more focused, like, not that Snapchat is completely focused, but if you look at something like WhatsApp for example, it's just an end-to-end encrypted messenger with a number of features. But it's pretty focused. I mean, it does what it does, and it's intentionally done that way. And Snap was always, especially I think because millennials took to it right away, and that was where it was born. It was in a lot of ways kind of given the pat on the head in terms of social. It took us a long time, for example, to make the case that some of our clients should be on Snap, even though it was such a huge opportunity, because when you can get on a platform in the early days and you're ahead of that curve, you have a massive amount of opportunity to make a splash.
Yeah, first to market is true, even like especially for advertisers. It's not just a company launch. Like, as an advertiser, obviously it's a huge competition. We're constantly trying to find a leg up on each other. It's very competitive, very noisy. So not only ad formats and platforms and things like that, but also tools too. So if you can, actually, an interesting example that happened that just is about this is that there are some, because of, in light of Facebook's recent things, they've closed down some of their APIs. So a lot of people were getting into messenger marketing, very deep into it, and all of those bots have now the API has been cut off. So if you were a part of them beforehand, you can still leverage it, but right now they're all closed.
Yeah, you can't create a new chat bot, and the question will be, coming out of all of the dramatics out of Washington, D.C., is that there are going to be changes. There already are. Another, just in terms of some of the chatter that I've been hearing, is that pixel sharing may be eliminated, and what the pixel is collecting will probably be reined in. And so if you're in digital marketing, or if you're using Facebook advertising, prep yourself for your campaigns to potentially change drastically, and watch out for wild swings, because something's going to happen as they start rolling all of these changes out.
For sure. Do not expect that it's going to be business as usual if you are advertising on Facebook. Just keep in mind, obviously they are trying to consider advertisers and consumers, but yeah, there will be some changes coming down the pipe for sure.
For sure. Okay, let's check out what's up next.
Yeah, so last but not least, we want to talk a bit about Shopify. Shopify actually had an interesting expansion. They have what's called the eBay sales channel. So if you're running your e-commerce store on Shopify, you have the ability to extend your products and your service and your offerings to the 170 million people that use eBay. So they've actually extended that. It was already in existence, but it's come to Canada now. And that's kind of what the announcement was about. So we're like, yay, giving up north some love. That's great. And as a Shopify partner, we're very excited about that for obvious reasons. We really love the platform. We love working with it. They're actually neighbors of ours, so just down the street from us. But yeah, we love what they do, and this, for obvious reasons, is exciting to marketers because you are adding that potential of the extra distribution channel.
Right.
And people are already inherently using eBay. It's a household name. It has, like we said, 170 million user base. So it's just that extra oomph to what's already going on with your e-commerce channels, and really any element you can add to e-commerce is going to be helpful.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, and Shopify is fantastic because not only because it's got a low barrier to entry, but it also has a scalability. You don't have to worry about your own web hosting. You do pay for software as a service on a monthly basis, and you pay for that for additional features you may want to add. And then obviously with your e-commerce store, as you're growing it, right? You can move into Shopify Plus, which then gives you enterprise-grade support, and then pretty much unlimited scalability, right? That you could go up, you could become a multinational company and still support yourself. So you have a kind of smooth flow. The nice thing about what Shopify does, and there's some limitations depending on the tier, but you can get around those, is the idea of distribution and e-commerce moving out from the store rather than drawing people into the store, if that makes sense. That the Snap article about the shop and bringing e-commerce is a great example. Same thing with Shopify's interface for Facebook, which actually does go to a Shopify cart, but it's within the Facebook user experience. So the individuals don't feel like they're leaving Facebook. And then to this final point is distribution that has nothing to do with e-commerce. Just distribution is king. The more places you have your products and or services visible, the more chance that you have to reach more customers and acquire and grow your business.
For sure, and we often tell people there isn't like a golden arrow. There may be one thing that does work perhaps best for you, but the best results and the strongest campaigns, the way to get to these case studies that you read about people getting these phenomenal results is because they are leveraging all of the channels at their disposal.
Is a golden arrow like a silver bullet?
I guess.
But better?
I guess. I like to call it golden arrow. Silver bullet reminds me of the beer.
Well.
Your good branding course.
As long as it goes back to booze.
Don't mind me. I'm just over here making up my own colloquialisms. Don't worry about it.
It's a good one. Well, a golden arrow has to be better than a silver bullet. That's all there is. That is all there is to it. All right, and last but not least, in the free for all roundtable this week.
Yeah, we're excited. We finally, the last couple episodes, we keep mentioning seasonality, and we keep alluding to it, and this time it's for real. We're actually going to cover it and go into it. So seasonal marketing has always been a part of marketing, we're talking specifically about how for e-commerce, and it's also for content marketing itself. Content marketing is very much driven by seasonality. Keywords themselves are searched different frequencies depending on the time of year. Obviously, the obvious example is like you're not going to be looking up like snow removal in July. Doesn't really
Sure.
work that way.
Sure.
Um,
Sorry, Hannah had a question with respect to the Shopify eBay integration. Do you have to have an account on both? And the answer would be yes. In order to push to an eBay store, you'd have to have the credentials, and you would basically connect the two. And it would be the same thing for the Facebook integrations, but all of that is fairly easy and trivial to set up.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So going back to seasonality, which admittedly got punted a number of times down the road.
Yeah, but it is very important. It's still it's the lifeblood of a lot of our programs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, seasonality can work. It's great for omni-channel because they can all work together. Your content marketing can be pushing that organic traffic in. Your social media can be leveraging the hashtag that's trending.
Yep.
And then your ad campaigns themselves can be helping to associate some sort of actual ROI and result to that, so that you're not just like
Yep.
brand building, it's actual e-commerce sales that they're leveraged for.
Yeah, and the important thing is, especially in e-commerce, is creating a kinetic sense of energy about your store, and it's always constructed. I mean, when you walk into Best Buy every single day, it's going to be like a blowout event. They want to try to create a sense of excitement, and using seasonality and using things like Earth Day or International Women's Day, Mother's Day, and the obvious ones, right? Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's. There are a lot of different ways to kind of attract and create a sense of celebration or a sense of something going on here.
For sure,
Yep.
yeah. And if you go to and contesting and things like that, it's all part of it. It's part of that energy. And for retail and e-commerce specifically, it's not in the way that where you can see people do it. I think car dealerships and things like that are typically kind of an example where they kind of make up their own events and their own seasonality.
Yep.
Which is one way to go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you have a month where there's nothing happening, you could make up your own event. Yeah. You could also do it on a higher level, like spring and things like that, and the seasonal change. But like we said, my personal favorite is the trending topic days. So it's tapping into a conversation that's already happening in your industry, and you're leveraging the organic reach of that trending hashtag for your campaign. So yes, for example, World Health Day was last Saturday, and we ran a flash sale that was quite successful.
Yep.
Also Earth Day is coming up, things like that. And not to force it in a way that it's totally unnatural, but it's tapping into an existing conversation that you are already a part of.
Yeah, and Hannah just mentioned that timing is everything, and that's absolutely true.
Yes.
And what we try to do is we create templates that we're able to customize so it looks fresh, it doesn't have a huge overhead to it, and we're able to drop these things in fairly quickly. The first few that you do will be painful, they always are, but once you get through the first couple of them, you get better at doing it, and then your customers get a sense of attention and attentiveness. You can't simply put your product up and hope to God people are going to buy it, because they won't. And that's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah.
And then when we're, just to thread this all together into omni-channel, is saying, look, I've got awareness customers that I'm trying to get a few touches of interaction with to tell the story. So jumping into Courtney's point on trending items and topical items help to do that. And then you have the ability, you have your abandoned cart customers, your first-time purchasers, your loyal customers, your VIPs. You've got all of these different types of customers that you can appeal to, but you have to keep doing it strategically and make sure you include all of those people. So as an example, one of the things that we like to do on the e-commerce side and on anything is, as you start to build up your VIP side, give them 2 hours advance notice prior to launching a full special offer campaign saying, hey, we want you to have this first.
Yeah.
Right? It's a simple thing. People appreciate it. They feel like you give a shit about them. Pardon my French.
Yeah, another tactic we've used successfully before is private Facebook groups. People tend to think of Facebook and social media as a lead gen tool. I like to advocate the customer service side of it as well, because there's nothing better than people being genuine on social media about your brand. Reviews and things like that, people tend not to trust as much as like a direct tweet. So I love it for that. But yeah, to tie this into kind of the Gantt chart planning as well, when you use that kind of 3-month plan, you can anticipate these kinds of topics and pre-plan for them. And that frees you up to have a bit of flexibility too, because there's nothing worse than being like, oh God, tomorrow's a national holiday day and I could have ran a campaign that would have been awesome. And it's too late to do it now. And that's really, basically marketers are constantly fighting the clock. It's a thing. But yeah, that's why you should plan and really yes, it does take time to do the planning, but it'll be worth it in the long run for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to give one example of a seasonal campaign that I really love.
I was gonna say we made it to 45 minutes.
No, we're gonna. I'll be quick. I'll
No,
be
it's-
quick.
you
It was a
don't-
good practical
you don't have
example.
to.
We've been
Yep.
discussing it in the office. It was April Fool's Day, so sometimes people kind of look at trending and seasonal campaigns as kind of a surprise and delight, and more of like a retention tactic. So more so, here's a random giveaway as a thank you for being a customer. But really, I like to leverage them as they can be sales as well. So Swiss Chalet actually did this very well on April Fool's. It went viral. You may have seen it or not. I actually got the direct email and opened it.
Me too.
And apparently the open rate on the campaign, I read a debrief on it, was one of the highest they've ever had. Just because of the newsworthiness. But basically they made a fake video and a fake news piece that they were removing the single servings of chalet sauce, and each table was going to be equipped with a chalet sauce fountain.
Oh, I wish.
And the video production of it, like it was a video asset, a landing page. The video was just 2 people using the chalet sauce fountain. So like the production of it, not that much, but in terms of the attention, like it got so much attention. And the fact wasn't that it was like, April Fool's, it's a joke. You then, once you went to the page and completed the video, you then got a 10% offer on your next purchase. So it then instilled purchases and sales from that. So they have a direct ROI, and it's not just, there's times to be cheeky and to have fun and to add kind of enjoyment and entertainment into your brand, but also just consider what the result is. There should always be a result to your marketing activities.
Yep, and surprise and delight. Humor is something that comes up quite often. Wendy's on Twitter, for example, is fantastic at that. So is Merriam-Webster. The
Oddly
dictionary.
enough,
They are great.
That's a really, really awesome case study, and the lady that runs it is a librarian.
Wow.
They're all librarians.
And she
that
goes and
learn-
grammatically corrects other people's posts and stuff. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, and then providing definitions to politicians that may, use words improperly.
Susan Jilton, potential career op for you.
Well, there you go.
She'd be
You know,
good at it too.
I will
She
say,
would
I
be.
will say, Donald Trump has been an endless fountain of grammatical and spelling errors on his Twitter feed.
They went after him.
Unable to spell consensus and things like that has been good for them.
Yeah, just a great example for the youth of our nation
There
and
you
how
go.
you should learn to read.
There you go. Well, there we go. We got a political comment in
You gotta
before
get
the
a
end
jab
of this.
in, one or two.
Gotta do it. Hey, it's not our country. All right, I think.
Hashtag not my country.
So that's what's happening this week. Is there anything else, or let's call it? It's
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's good.
It's a spooky Friday the 13th. I think it was pouring rain.
It was.
It was pouring rain there. So have a spooktacular Friday the 13th. I mean, I don't know. I have had a terrible day. Just joking.
aw.
Oh, it's over now. It's over now.
Yeah, it's the weekend.
Nicole, he needs a hug.
It's the weekend. A glass of wine will do just fine. Thank you. And now we're ending up with some effects. I think we are. We should be
Oh.
pretty awesome. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Weekend.
See you next week.